All right, it's Friday, and we're going to talk about water today, y'all. But on a construction job, it's Friday. Got to bring in donuts, or somebody does. And there's one of my tool buddies over there, Sol.
Hi.
They got donuts in Argentina?
Yeah, we got.
Probably better donuts than the ones I just got at this Safeway, huh?
So here it's like the world of donuts.
Oh.
Donuts, so.
Okay.
But you know they're better.
All right, well, it's donuts, and we're going to talk about water today and how I would do it on this Earthship. Now, as a side note, I'm not getting the best sleep in the world. It's like I'm parked up right next to the main highway, and these clowns are making noise all night. But it's Friday. I got donuts, and I'm sure there's at least several Hooter bandits over here that got the munchies. All right, I better get this footage while there's still, no wind. It's kind of windy out here. So before we talk about water on the Earthship and how all that works, and also I'm going to bring up a part that maybe hasn't really been considered. I want to first show you how it's typically done out here. And pressure tank, well, the whole 9 yards. And judging by the conversation that I had a few days ago, it looks like they have to go pretty deep around here to get water. Now, in fairness, the water does taste pretty good around here. I'll give them that. But we are in a place where, according to the landowner, I didn't look myself, and he is a very meticulous guy, so I'm sure his information is correct. He's saying the worst year of rainfall around here is somewhere around 5 inches, okay? So that's not much. And then on a good year, they don't get a whole lot more than that, maybe a foot. It's not wonderful. But everywhere I've been around here, almost nobody has any consideration for their water other than that system right there. Well, I'm going to show you how it works on an Earthship, and I'm going to also talk to you about what to do with the water that doesn't stay in the Earthship, because believe it or not, much of that consideration hasn't really been made. Plans for that haven't been made. I had the great benefit of being in a group chat with Michael Reynolds, the inventor of the Earthship, yesterday. And I asked him that specific question regarding, the inside of the Earthship, fantastic, but how much effort has been put, not by him, because that great man has done so many things in this whole space. I wouldn't expect him to put his hand into that also. But I was wondering, has anybody else spend any considerable time about what to do with the water that comes on the outside of it? Well, today I'm going to show you what I would do with it. Okay, so 360 all the way around me, basically getting water out of the earth is the way they get their water. Now, sadly, in this environment, there's almost zero consideration as to how to put it back in. And I've discussed that, I think, a little bit in the Pimpcast. So if you want to know more about it, check out what we've said in the Permaculture Pimpcast. Anyway, yesterday we put on the trusses, and I was part of that crew. But here's, in a nutshell, I didn't want to talk about water until we got this far. So this roof is sloped facing south, okay? In this particular model, it's done that way on purpose. And Michael Reynolds actually talked about that yesterday when we were in that group chat or group Zoom meeting or whatever we had with him. This one's designed this way because some of them slope this way, some of them slope this way. But because this is an ongoing R&D kind of thing, they tweak the models once they find out something else is new. Now, as you can see, hopefully you can get a sense of the angle. It basically goes this way, facing the south. Let's get up closer so you can see this. Here's the house part, and then over here, this is the entire greenhouse area, okay? Now it comes down, it's gonna hit the gutters in the front, come on over, and then look at what we got here. On both sides of this, Peter, the landowner, installed these massive tanks. He's got 2 on each side. I don't even think he's worried about messing with the gray water. I think this is all just fresh water. I think it's what he designed here. So it hits every drop of rain that comes off that roof is gonna wind up in these tanks. And how fantastic is that? Because the water's used 4, perhaps even 5 times before it ever goes out. So the water comes off the roof. Immediately the stuff you're gonna drink is purified. The other stuff that's going to go in your sink and is going to be less so. Okay, it hits a gray water tank. I'm going to scoot down here so you can hear me a little bit better. it's going to hit a gray water tank. And then who says you need fresh water to flush a toilet? Brilliant. So part of that gray water, as I understand it, goes into the greenhouse. The other part is going to be used to flush your toilets and things like that. Plus, you can use that gray water tank to, any number of things outside, where you could set that up to to some means to maybe put a soaker hose in any of these places downhill, which I'll get to in a moment. But right now, what they have here, let me stand back here so you can see it. Whatever is not going to be used in the house, or whenever these tanks are low, on both sides, they basically got these pipes coming out the side of that. And then it's kind of dead ending right here. And that's what I want to address. I'm going to talk about the things. Now, the water on the inside is fantastic. No complaints whatsoever. In fact, I got no complaint with pretty much any of the design I've seen so far, and I'm realizing just how easy it is to do. But I'm going to address the things on the outside. Now, these are things you can not only use in your home or on an earthship, but they can apply to any home for that matter. Okay, so up here on the back side of these trusses, let me get up where you can see it a little better. This ground is essentially going to be sloped up. We're going to have metal all the way up to here, and then it's going to slope down, okay? When I was talking to Peter, the landowner out here, his idea, and he kind of briefly talked to me about it, was taking this area back here and then digging a pond into it. Well, we briefly discussed it in the Pimpcast last night, that that's probably not the best idea in the world, because your house is downstream of it. And I don't care how well you did that pond, I wouldn't do that. Let's talk about the areas that could be exploited and ways in which they could easily green the desert out here with a lot of the water that's already running off this building. Because when they do get rain events, they're typically all at once. So, what a beautiful structure. All right, here we are on the western side of this thing. The water, the way it's been going, and the land will tell you the whole story. It basically, in every rain event, and we had a couple since I've been here, it's going to do what water does. It's going to seek the lowest point and take everything with it. And then you see these massive rivers going on all throughout here, where if any of the water's captured, then I don't see it. But if this were my home, I would try to capture. Remember, those tanks are wonderful, excellent. But I would capture, especially in this environment, every drop of rain I could. So that overflow where he's walking right now, why couldn't that be brought underground? And I'm just saying, this is any number of things you could do. But instead of just letting it go all the way down here, why not dump that into a swale? Now, for those of you that don't know, a swale is a water harvesting ditch on contour, meaning that it's perfectly flat. Why not hit a swale and go all the way around this edge of the property? Dump it off a little bit more. I mean, as I'm going down this gully, and judging by my estimation, it seems to go down maybe another 50, possibly even 100 feet. And it just goes down, hits that giant washout, and then off to the ocean. But very little is done by, believe me, I've been looking. And very few of the neighbors or anybody else around here seems to have any concern whatsoever with all the water that just falls from the sky just in the time I was here. Nobody collects it because, frankly, we live in the United States of amnesia. And, when we turn the light switch on, the lights come on. Turn the water on. In most cases, unless you live in Detroit or some places in Michigan, the water typically comes on. But very few people consider the notion that, what if I don't have that? And that's a real conversation, especially to have in these times. Let's go look at the other side. What's up, Dan? Now, over here are the tanks on the east side, and the tire wall is going to basically go up another couple of courses, and maybe 3, and then it's going to be sloped down all the way over here. So this thing is perfectly insulated. But once again, we got another pipe sticking out there. And when I spoke to the owner, as of yet, he hasn't really put a whole lot of consideration into how to capture any of this water. But look what we see over here. Same thing as we saw on the other side. I know you can't get a sense of depth over here, but it goes down quite a ways. All the way down to that massive gully down there, okay? So there are, extraordinary and plentiful ways in which this water could be captured and without a whole lot of effort, especially in this soil. And then the dog I'd be taking to the hunt. I mean, if this were my place, believe me, have Eric Sider on the first thing smoking out here to see how they did it in the Jordan Desert. But this is not a difficult problem to solve. Just like that shirt Eric says, you know, the problems are more complex, but the answers are amazingly simple. Look at where you see all the, hopefully you can see it down there, the light's kind of shining weird. The only real vegetation you see around here are in the low spots down there, all through there. Just take my word for it when I say, look, that is a very lush, I mean, it's winter in the desert, so it's not gonna look so lush right now, but that's where all the water's going. There is zero, remember, whenever we have energy enter our property, we wanna capture it, perhaps deflect it, maybe even amplify it, and in some really cool cases, you can do all three. There is absolutely none of that being done here. Yeah, the house is fantastic. I mean, everything it's designed to do is fantastic, but it really wouldn't hurt to maybe put a lot more effort in some places, because the biggest reservoir for your water is always going to be in the ground. Places like this. This could be a beautiful swale all the way over here, a series of them all the way down, long before it ever hits that gully. So here we are at the end of 2 weeks out here, and one more week to go, and this thing's coming along. It's coming along beautifully. Glad to be a part of it, but I didn't want to talk about the water until you at least had some idea of how the water is channeled from that roof. But think about it in your own place as well, because the water consideration for nearly everybody out there is almost non-existent for most of us. So in these coming days, I'm thinking it's going to have to really come to the forefront in the minds of all of us, because if you didn't learn anything over the last couple of years, you know that you can't rely on the powers that shouldn't be. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. To put another feather in my cap, to make me less reliant on the powers that shouldn't be. And this home is a good start of it. But at the same time, don't forget about the water. If you have more property, depending on where you live, you might want to capture as much of it as you possibly can. All right, if you need anything from us, check us out down below. Don't forget, check out the Permaculture Pimpcast. We talk about a lot of this stuff on there, even though I'm out here. So until next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. We'll see y'all next time.